Grüezi miteinander und alle zusammen.
Hello people, it's Gavin here again from Hologram Productions.
Oh, don't forget to like and subscribe, that'd be great, like.
And today we're going to learn how to build a progressive house track in the style of the label Enormous Tunes. So just a little bit about Enormous Tunes. They are a progressive and melodic house label. They're based out of Switzerland, founded by some talented bloke named Christian Hirt, who also produces under the name Passenger 10. Other notable artist names on this label being Daniel Portman, who provides the reference track that I will be using today, and Nora N. Pura, one of the biggest names in prog house, running her own label which is called Purified. And as well as releasing original tracks, they also have a partnership with SoundsFat, and they also release killer sample packs. The label got in contact with me in order to take a look at the Cyclopedia 2 pack, which is an absolute endless whirlwind of nearly 22 gigs worth of drum hits, drum loops, melody loops, lead solos, vocal lines, risers, downshifters, fill-ins, atmos loops, environmental textures, bass loops, synth loops, arpeggio loops. It's pretty much endless. So I downloaded the pack they sent me, took some time digging through it because there's a lot of stuff here, enough to make music for the rest of your career probably, and I made liberal use of these samples and I ended up making a complete track in the Enormous Tunes style. Let's have a quick listen.
Very nice.
So the reference track that I kind of used for this was a track called Pheromone by Daniel Portman, which sounds a bit like this. So you get that kind of rolling bass line, you get the deep kick, and you get melody that moves up and moves down, so it's got that real progressive house movement to it. And that was the kind of movement that I wanted to incorporate into my track. I didn't stick to it rigidly, but that was the vague idea I wanted to follow. And take a quick look at the pack itself, the Cyclopedia 2 full pack, you'll see that there's pretty much just an endless list of things that you can utilize. And I went through all of these and I spent a certain amount of time listening to them and thinking, what could I use in terms of drum loops, drum constructions, melody loops, piano loops, live instrumental loops like violins, flutes, saxophones, guitars, cellos, whatever you want. Vocals from Eva, Nancy, Zoe and Lesia. There's a whole bunch of stuff there that you can utilize. Effects, fill-ins, atmospheres, bass loops, synths and arpeggio loops. Let's listen to a synth loop actually. You get the idea, a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm going to break down the track into components and explain how I made each of the different elements. And we're going to start first of all with the drums. Starting with the kick drum, which is number 1, Cyclo 2. Decided to boost the subs and boost the highs so that it would cut through a bit more. And I layered it up with another kick, so you get more mids. Then I added a quick clap, and then a second layer, which is a snare. Again, I wanted to boost the mids because I needed the kick and the clap to come together, so therefore they would sound very thick. I gathered a selection of toms and I consolidated them into one audio bar and I sliced them together, and then I started creating a groove. Together everything. Then I found a tops loop And I put the Haas effect on it to put it in the stereo field, remove the lows, boosted the highs, and all together. I duplicated the same toms channel, except this time I transposed everything up 35, is it octaves, cents, whatever, plus 35. I made it high, and then I removed the lows, and then I boosted the highs, so you get some high-end clarity running through echo. So it just makes everything sound a bit more 3D. And then one more. It's important to have a whole bunch of offbeat hits. And again, I was using the toms, and you create a conversation between all of those elements. A hi-hat loop mixed with another hat loop, which just sounds like a glass sample, a glass and pot sample, boosting the highs. Also, I put on a ride sample in there, boosted the highs, make it maximum brightness. Another hi-hat sample because I wanted it to be extra bright. These are all loops from the Cyclo 2 pack. And then finally an open hi-hat, which in order to maximize the brightness, you have it in the lower octave and in the higher octave, and then so that for the highs goes all the way to the top, so you get maximum brightness. And then I did another sample again, which is just a shaker, which the LFO is at the start time, and it's got some grain delay, so you got some texture, and again boosting the highs. So the drums will start sounding really clean and groovy. And a bongo loop, which is heavily side-chained. And a second bongo loop. You always need loads of layers to play around with. All together. But you also need some offbeat hits. So in order to create some offbeat hits, I found a whole bunch of random shaker and drum samples, put it into this drum rack here. So you can play around. So throughout the whole track, this will hit at relatively random times on the offbeat. So those are the drums, used almost entirely the Cyclo pack drums. And now let's move on to the bass. I wanted to make the sub bass to hit on the offbeat. And then the melody descends from E to C. I'm using a Diva preset, which is the Sakura D preset, a bass called Atlantis. It's a nice sub bass. And on top of that, the same MIDI notes. Except I'm using a bass pluck which I created in Wavetable, removing all of the subs. So they sound together like this. And also, I put a bass flare in there, which is just hitting one note in every 4 bars. A bit like Yato. But the thing that makes all of the difference is this synth chop sound, which is another Diva preset, which is Bass Neutron from Visions 3. Together with the drums, they sound like this. I also decided to add some variety to the melody. The melody here is just 2 notes, and here there's multiple more. Okay, so it ascends and descends, and then descending, and then descending again. technique that I use in order to make sure that the volumes are leveled out for the bass is you put on a limiter where you turn up the volume to the point where it's being limited, and then you turn down the volume on the output. You have to use an EQ in order to remove some of the mud, and then use another limiter in order to make sure that the bass is at a uniform level, with still just a little bit of breathing space. Now it's briefly time for the pads. This is a Diva preset called Sakura AE Pad Essentials 06. This with the bass sounds like this. Heavily sidechained. And another sound here, which I used this cycle tonal bed. And if you remove... So just I use this for swells. I used it in the breakdown of the track, because you get this lovely ethereal wash. Another technique I use is sometimes I re-record pads like that, and then I run it through a whole bunch of granulation effects. These are my Max Cooper granulation effects. This is available on my Max Cooper pack, by the way. It's just great. It runs it through various different versions of Portal and Auto Filter and Auto Chop. So you get this lovely granulation. So those are the pads. Now it's time to focus on the lead. The most important lead is a saw pluck I made in Serum. And I usually compose my melodies where the notes go on the offbeat. And it sounds like this. With the drums. Then you get a secondary arp which sounds like this. With the other one. But I added a filter cutoff, so therefore it only hits every 2 bars. So you just get little swells every now and then. And you need to draw in your automation to do that. The other lead sound, which is a really cool sound, which I got from... Oh my god, my brain has gone absolutely blank. Diva, thank you very much, which is called Planet Earth. I love this lead. It's like Vangelis. And in order to add emotion, I like the idea of the notes ascending and descending, whilst the bass is descending and ascending in opposite form. Oh yeah, you do need to add an awful lot of stuff, so therefore I found this loop here, which was an arpeggio loop. It was originally down here, like this. I transposed it up, preserved the transients, and ran it through a bunch of audio effects and reverb, so you just have this hitting at the end of a couple of bars. So it's effective when used sparingly. A quick look at the Vox. I thought that would sound really nice with the lead and the pads and the bass. Super epic. But my absolute favorite part of the track is this vocal chop, which I utilize a gate for. Here is the vocal chop. You put a gate on it. Very bicep-like, and this is being triggered by the gate up here. Just like that. And to briefly look at the effects, there are an infinite amount of cool effects that you can utilize in your tracks. And you got downshifters, which sound like this. Like this. You've got risers, which sound like this. Because you need an awful lot of noise in your tracks. Another sweep here. Oh, and check this out. I've also got a really cool snare roll, but I added reverb and autofilter to this. And then you've also got a fill, which I put right at the end here. So those all together sound like this. So let's have a listen to the track from the breakdown. So there you have it, guys. You have an absolute epic, emotive banger in the style of Enormous Tunes, which are constructed, I would say 70% out of content which is from the Cyclopedia 2 full pack. I highly recommend investing in this pack. It's probably the last pack you're ever going to need. And I found it very, very inspiring, and I feel like the production process of this track absolutely flowed, and I love this track and I cannot wait to play it out. So if you're interested in picking up this pack, basically check out the link in the description, which will take you to their website, and then you can make a purchase of it. Like I said, highly recommend it. So that's it for now, guys. Don't forget to subscribe,
Oh, don't forget to like and subscribe.
and I'll see you all next time.